Hi guys, Melissa here, and the theme for this week is a new twist on an old tale. The first book we're going to read is The Little Red Cowboy Hat, written by Susan Lowell, followed by The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, as told by John Skeeza, and then to finish it up, we'll do our last rhyme in this Mother Goose book. Okay, let's get started. Once upon a ranch, far away in the wild of the West, there lived a little girl with red hair. Her hair was a fine color, somewhere between firecrackers and new pennies. And to top it off, her grandmother gave her a bright red cowboy hat. So everybody called her Little Red Cowboy Hat, or Little Red for short. One day, her mother said, "Little Red, your grandma's sick in bed. Ride over there and take her this loaf of homemade bread and a jar of cactus jelly." "Yes, ma'am," said Little Red, who loved to visit her grandmother. "Don't dilly-dally along the way," warned her mother. "No, ma'am," said Little Red. "And be careful," her mother said. "It's rattlesnake season." "Yes, ma'am." Little Red put her cowboy hat on. Little Red put her cowboy hat on her head and saddled her buckskin pony. She packed a loaf of bread and a jar of jelly in her saddlebag, and then she set off for her grandmother's ranch several miles away. First, she rode down into a deep canyon. Clink, clunk, crunch went the pony's feet, striking sparks from the rocks. And there she is, right there. Next, she rode up onto a wide mesa where gold poppies and blue lupines blossomed in the grass. "Grandma loves flowers," thought Little Red. "I'll just stop for a minute." As she was picking wildflowers, she heard her pony give a snort. "Whoa, Buck," said Little Red, turning around. "Is it a snake?" she wondered. Then she saw the wolf. "Howdy, little girl," he said. He wore a cowboy hat 3 shades blacker than a locomotive. "Hi," she said. The wolf stood between her and the pony. She didn't want to talk to him, but she'd been raised to be polite. "What's your name, honey?" he asked. He came a little closer than she liked. "Little Red Cowboy Hat," she answered reluctantly. She also had been raised to tell the truth. "Red?" said the wolf. A creepy feeling ran up her backbone and tingled in the roots of her hair. "Red as in ketchup?" he asked. "Or red as in blood?" She didn't answer. He was much too close. She could count the teeth in his smile. "Where are you going, sugar?" he said. "Why not take a little ride with me?" Just then, the pony whinnied and reared. "Whoa, Buck!" cried Little Red. The wolf leaped away from Buck's hard hooves, and Little Red seized the reins and jumped safely into the saddle. "To Grandma's house!" she shouted as she galloped away. When Little Red reached her grandmother's ranch, she didn't hear a sound except the windmill creaking. Squeak! Squeak! The chickens didn't even cluck. Usually Grandma was outside doctoring a cow or mixing cement, but now nothing moved except 3 buzzards circling high up in the sky. "Poor Grandma," thought Little Red. She tied Buck to the hitching post and tippy-toed into the ranch house. It was as quiet as a tree full of owls. "Grandma?" she called softly. She saw a big lump in her grandmother's bed. The lacy edge of Grandma's shower cap peeked out above the patchwork quilt. "I brought you some bread and jelly, Grandma," said Little Red. "Thank you, honey bun," said a muffled voice. Thump! What was that noise outside? Little Red stiffened. Something was wrong. "Grandma?" she said. "Is that you?" "Of course it is, sweetie." "Well, I can't see you," said Little Red suspiciously. The lump moved. Deep down in the bedclothes, a strange dark eye glittered. "Shoot," thought Little Red. "Grandma must really be sick." "What big eyes you have, Grandma," she said. "The better to see you with, Pumpkin," said the voice. Ka-thump came the noise outside again. The quilt fell away from a huge hairy muzzle. Now Little Red Cowboy Hat knew perfectly well that this was not her grandmother. But where was Grandma? She decided to string the wolf along until she found out, so she went on bravely. "What a big nose you have, Grandma." "The better to smell you with, Dumpling," said the figure in the bed. "Thump, thump." "And what sharp teeth you have, Grandma." "The better to eat you with, Angel Pie." And the wolf sat bolt upright and grabbed Little Red Cowboy Hat. "Thump, thump, thump." "Ow!" she screamed. "Quiet, you delicious morsel," he snarled, licking his chops. "Oh, no, you don't," yelled a familiar voice. "Get your paws off her, you varmint." And there was Little Red Cowboy Hat's grandma with an axe in her hand. She had been chopping wood. The wolf dropped Little Red like a hot potato and made a break for the window. "Are you all right, Red?" "Yes, ma'am." The wolf tripped over his nightgown, and then he got stuck in the window. His tail waved helplessly behind him. Meanwhile, Grandma snatched her shotgun from the mantel. "Pow! Take that, you low-life Lobo," she shouted. "Come on, Red." Little Red leaped onto Buck and twirled her lasso. Together they chased the wolf down the road. "Tut, tut, tut," cried the chickens. "Noo, noo," called the cattle. "Breaking into my house," puffed Grandma. "Wearing my clothes, klabam! Getting fleas in my bed, messing with my granddaughter, swish, boom! You look mighty good as a rug, Mr. Wolf." Later, back at the ranch, Little Red Cowboy Hat and her grandma sat down to eat their bread and cactus jelly. "Now, Red, have you learned your lesson?" asked Grandma. "Yep, a girl's got to stick up for herself," said Little Red. Her windblown hair glowed in the light of the setting sun. It was a fine color, somewhere between autumn leaves and chili peppers, and Grandma smiled as she smoothed it down. "That yellow-bellied, snake-blooded, skunk-eyed, rancid son of a parallelogram," she said. "This time he picked the wrong grandma, and they never had any wolf trouble around her ranch again." The end. Okay. The true story of the 3 little pigs. Everybody knows the story of the 3 little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing's all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back, once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in?" No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed. And I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig. dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger, just lying there. I was feeling a little bit better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered, so I called, "Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake, so I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer, so I called, Mr. Pig, are you in?" And do you know what that rude little porker answered? "Get out of here, wolf! Don't bother me again." Talk about impolite! He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't even give me one little cup for my sweet dear old granny's birthday cake. What a pig! I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, "And your old granny can sit on a pin." Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break the pig's door down. And the whole time, I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. That's the real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. The end. Okay. So our very last rhyme is Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And it goes, Tweedledum and Tweedledee resolved to have a battle, for Tweedledum said Tweedledee had spoiled his nice new rattle. Just then, by a monstrous crow, as big as a tar barrel, which frightened both the heroes so, they forgot their quarrel. Really quickly, I just want to show you some of the books that we do have available for checkout. I've got Princess and the Pizza. This one is a kind of a worldwide take on Cinderella. It's called Glass Slipper Gold Sandal. Honestly, Red Riding Hood was rotten. Seriously, Cinderella, so annoying. This one here is a little bit more like a children's nonfiction. It's called You Wouldn't Want to Be a Medieval Knight. We do have quite a few different selections to go with each of the weeks for the summer reading program. So you guys are welcome to come and check these out. Thank you. Have a good day.